Thus, Jesus stands before Pilate, the man caught between conscience and obligation, and the crowd's mood becomes a living, breathing, What if I told you that the very first moments of The Chosen Season 6 will break your heart before it even begins? The trial of Jesus isn't just a story we've heard 1,000 times. It's a journey that will grip you, shake you, and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. And judging by what we've heard from Jonathan and the crew, this season isn't holding anything back. The pain, the tension, the betrayal, it's all coming, and it's coming hard. Can we even handle what's about to unfold in Episode 1? Section 1. Season 6 picks up exactly where Season 5 left us gasping for breath. There's no easing into the story, no gentle reintroduction. From the very first scene, the stakes are sky high. Jesus is about to face the darkest hours of his earthly journey, and the tension will be unbearable. You can almost feel it in the air. Every look, every whisper, every step is charged with impending doom. The disciples are scared, confused, and powerless, and even their attempts to protect him will feel heartbreakingly futile. Have you ever watched someone you care about walk into danger, knowing you can't save them? That's exactly what this season promises to make us feel. Before Jesus is arrested, there's the famous moment in Gethsemane, the prayer we all know so well, "Not my will, but yours be done." But hearing how Jonathan described filming this scene makes it clear that it's far more than a line. It's an emotional earthquake. He went through one of the hardest periods of his life, physically and emotionally, to bring this moment to life. Can you imagine the weight of stepping into Jesus' shoes in that moment? And yet, that's just the beginning. When the guards arrive, the air snaps with tension, Jesus is taken before the authorities, and the weight of the world seems to hang in the balance. Annas may no longer hold the title of high priest, but his influence is anything but diminished. He pulls strings, maneuvers behind the scenes, and questions Jesus with all the force he can muster. But Jesus, calm, composed, unshakable, answers with a line that will send chills down your spine. "I have spoken openly. Why question me as if I were hiding?" The defiance in that answer isn't just remarkable, it's haunting, especially knowing the suffering that is about to follow. One of the guards, provoked by his words, strikes Jesus. And just like that, the torment officially begins. It's impossible not to pause here and think about what Jonathan endured to portray these moments. Every scene, dripping with emotional and physical pain, mirrors his own struggles on set. Can you even watch someone suffer so profoundly, knowing it's being channeled through an actor who poured himself entirely into the role? The disciples' attempts to defend Jesus during the trial will only make your heart ache. They speak, they argue, they plead, yet Jesus remains silent, knowing what must unfold. There's a power in that silence, a heartbreak in that quiet endurance that leaves you questioning your own strength. And just when you think the tension might ease, the trial intensifies. Caiaphas and the Sanhedrin desperately hunt for witnesses to condemn Jesus, but no one's testimony aligns. Can you imagine the frustration, the desperation, and the rage in that room? Caiaphas, overwhelmed and desperate to maintain control, turns directly to Jesus with the question that will define the next chapter of history. Are you the Messiah? The answer that follows is legendary, unforgettable, and will leave the council and us stunned. You have said so. From now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. With those words, the die is cast, the path sealed, and the tension ratchets up to a level that will keep you glued to every second of the episode. The council's fury explodes, accusations of blasphemy flying, yet they are powerless to execute him without Roman approval. And here comes the first real taste of betrayal and political manipulation that will dominate this season. Jesus is handed over to Pontius Pilate. From the very beginning, Pilate senses something is off. He knows deep down that Jesus is innocent, but can one man's conscience survive the crushing weight of public expectation, political pressure, and the fear of responsibility? And when Pilate attempts to navigate this impossible path, will he save Jesus, or will the crowd's anger decide his fate? And just as we think we might have a moment of relief, the story takes us further into despair, sending Jesus from one authority to another. Herod Antipas, curious, demanding a miracle, only to be met with silence, humiliation, and mockery. The cruelty, the injustice, the sheer helplessness of it all, it's almost unbearable. How do you even begin to process someone being dragged from place to place, innocent and calm, while the world conspires against them? Every moment in these opening scenes is designed to leave us breathless, teetering on the edge of despair. And just when you think it can't get any worse, what shocking choice will the crowd make next? And who will bear the weight of that decision? The tension only escalates aorts of chaos. Pilate knows the truth. He knows Jesus is innocent, but the crowd doesn't care about truth. They want action, spectacle, someone to blame. And here comes one of the most gut-wrenching moments. Pilate offers the choice everyone knows is rigged by fate itself: release Jesus the innocent or Barabbas the known criminal. Can you even imagine the weight of that moment, standing there, powerless to influence the decision, while history itself hangs in the balance? The crowd erupts, screaming for Barabbas, and just like that, Jesus' fate is sealed by the hands of those who fail to see justice. Pilate, trapped between duty, fear, and the impossible expectations of a restless public, washes his hands in a gesture that is both symbolic and devastatingly human. I am innocent of this man's blood. But what does innocence matter when the tide of anger has already turned, when the machinery of betrayal is unstoppable, and when the world has decided that cruelty will masquerade as justice? The trial, the manipulation, the sheer emotional weight of the moment is enough to make your chest tighten, your heart ache, and your mind spin in disbelief. And yet, this is just the beginning. Because once Jesus is handed over, what follows is a sequence of torment so relentless that it will push viewers to the edge of their emotional endurance. He is mocked, beaten, and crowned with thorns, a cruel parody of the kingship they claim he aspired to, and all of it is done with a precision that pierces the soul. Imagine watching him, silent, dignified, every bruise and every lash carrying the weight of injustice, while on set, Jonathan poured himself completely into these moments, enduring a physical and emotional toll that mirrors the suffering of his character. And it's not just physical, it's the emotional devastation that echoes in every look, every pause, every moment of silence that makes the viewer feel complicit in the heartbreak. The disciples are powerless, friends scattered, and yet their eyes tell a story of love, loyalty, and helplessness that cuts deeper than any sword. And when Jesus is brought to the streets, paraded as though he is nothing more than a pawn in a game of power, the layers of betrayal multiply. The people who once followed him now jeer, the leaders who plotted his fall watch coldly, and the soldiers, detached and brutal, enforce a suffering that seems endless. It's almost unbearable to even imagine the sheer exhaustion of both character and actor as they move through these harrowing moments. And what makes it even more shocking is how this sequence of events exposes the darkest parts of human nature. The ease with which fear and mob mentality can override reason, the casual cruelty of those in power, and the silent agony of those trapped in a system that offers no escape. And yet, amid the chaos, there's a strange, almost unbearable beauty in Jesus' composure, in the quiet dignity he maintains despite the horror surrounding him. The camera may linger, the narrative may pause, but the tension never eases, leaving the audience suspended between despair and awe. And just when we think the torment has reached its peak, we are reminded that the real test is still ahead. The ultimate judgment, the culmination of every injustice, the crucifixion that has been foreshadowed with every look, every whispered insult, and every act of betrayal. Can we even comprehend the enormity of watching an innocent man endure such relentless suffering, knowing it is destined, knowing it is unavoidable, yet powerless to intervene? And as Pilate steps back, hands washed, conscience clouded, and the crowd clamors for blood, the stage is set for one of the most heartrending and unforgettable sequences in television history. But just when you think you can brace yourself for the worst, the season throws another curveball. The intensity, the cruelty, the heartbreak, all building to a point where even the strongest viewer will have to ask themselves, how much can one human or one actor bear before the weight of suffering becomes too much to watch? And as episode 1 draws to its close, leaving us in suspense, we can't help but wonder, what is the ultimate cost of silence, dignity, and unwavering faith when the world around you is determined to destroy everything you are? Could we even survive watching what comes next, knowing that the first episode has only scratched the surface of pain, betrayal, and divine courage? Even after the harrowing choice at Pilate's hands, the nightmare for Jesus is far from over, and Season 6 wastes no time in plunging us deeper into the heart of anguish and injustice. Once handed over, Jesus is dragged from one authority to another, each encounter a masterclass in humiliation and cruelty that leaves the audience breathless. Herod Antipas, curious and indulgent in his own twisted sense of power, wants to see a miracle, a display of divine authority that could validate his own position, and yet Jesus, steadfast and silent, refuses to perform. Can you even imagine the tension in that room? Herod mocks him openly, dresses him in a royal robe as a cruel jest, and sends him back to Pilate, the weight of shame and ridicule following him like an unrelenting shadow. And the disciples, scattered, powerless, watching in helpless horror as their teacher, their friend, their savior, is paraded through public scrutiny and derision. Every glance exchanged between them is loaded with fear, confusion, and despair, a silent testament to the human cost of unwavering devotion in the face of absolute injustice. Meanwhile, Pilate's inner conflict rages on. He knows Jesus is innocent, he sympathizes, and yet the machinery of power, tradition, and the expectations of a restless, angry crowd push him toward decisions that will haunt him forever. Can you feel the tension mounting, the moral collapse that threatens not just Jesus, but everyone caught in this unyielding storm? And then comes the Passover tradition, a supposed ritual of mercy that, in practice, becomes yet another trap. Pilate offers the crowd the choice to release Jesus or Barabbas, the convicted criminal, and the mob, driven by fear, envy, and manipulation, screams for Barabbas, sealing Jesus' fate. The utter helplessness of it all is almost unbearable. Even the most prepared viewer cannot help but feel a surge of helpless rage and sorrow. As the reality of what is about to happen sinks in, we are forced to confront the horrifying mechanics of human cruelty, how easily the innocent can be condemned, the role of bystanders, and the terrifying power of collective anger when divorced from reason or morality. And then, the unthinkable begins, the physical torment, the mockery, the humiliation. Jesus is flogged, beaten, crowned with thorns, mocked as a king in a grotesque parody, and forced to carry the weight of the cross. Each moment is more excruciating than the last, and yet there is a strange, almost unbearable dignity in his silence, in the calm that seems to emanate from him even amid unimaginable suffering. Can you even fathom the emotional toll of filming these sequences? Jonathan, who embodies Jesus with such devastating authenticity, has spoken repeatedly about the physical exhaustion, the emotional drain, and the psychological weight of immersing himself in this level of pain. And this is just episode 1. The filmmakers deliberately construct each moment to mirror the duality of human cruelty and divine endurance, so that viewers feel both horror and awe simultaneously, suspended in a state of emotional turmoil that leaves you questioning your own capacity for empathy and understanding. The disciples, though present, cannot intervene, and their helplessness amplifies the audience's tension, creating a sense of shared suffering that is both intimate and relentless. Every act of cruelty, every lash, every sneer is meticulously designed to says endured. And yet, amid this darkness, the narrative continues to weave moments of subtle beauty. The patience in Jesus' gaze, the quiet resolve, the unwavering moral clarity that contrasts starkly with the chaos around him. It's almost impossible not to be drawn into the hypnotic rhythm of the story, the interplay of human weakness and divine endurance that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats, heart racing, breath caught, eyes wide. But as the episode continues, the tension is compounded by the realization that even those who are closest to Jesus, those who love him most, cannot shield him from the cruelty, the machinations, and the weight of public hatred. Their emotional responses, from silent despair to desperate pleading, serve as a mirror to our own fears and limitations, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable truth of human helplessness in the face of systemic cruelty. And just when the pain seems at its peak, Season 6 refuses to relent. The narrative layers betrayal upon injustice, moral conflict upon public spectacle, until viewers are left teetering on the edge of despair, asking themselves, How can one man endure so much, and why does the world seem determined to break him? The emotional tension is nearly unbearable, and yet this is only the beginning of a journey that will test the limits of faith, courage, and human endurance. So, as episode 1 draws us ever closer to the precipice, with the first throes of the crucifixion yet to come, the question lingers: can we, as viewers, survive what is about to unfold, knowing that the suffering we witness is only a shadow of what is to come, and that the ultimate test of courage, love, and endurance is just over the horizon? The moment Jesus carries the cross is a scene designed to make even the strongest hearts shatter. Every step, every stumble, every anguished breath reminds us of the unbearable weight, not just of the wood, but of humanity's cruelty and the immense responsibility of divine purpose. The streets are alive with chaos. The mocking crowd, the indifferent soldiers, and the fearful disciples trailing behind, their eyes wide with terror and helplessness. Can you even imagine the psychological pressure on both actor and audience, knowing that each agonizing step is choreographed to make the pain and humiliation visceral? Jonathan, fully embodying the role, has described the physical toll as excruciating and the emotional strain as something almost impossible to endure day after day. It's not just acting, it's immersion into the deepest human suffering, and it leaves a mark on everyone watching, forcing us to confront the darkest corners of human behavior. And yet, within this storm of hatred, mockery, and despair, there is a strange, transcendent beauty. The unbroken serenity in Jesus' eyes, the quiet strength of one who knows the end is only the beginning. The cross is no longer simply a piece of wood. It becomes a symbol of endurance, morality, and faith tested under the most extreme conditions imaginable. And as the procession moves toward Golgotha, every observer on screen, every disciple, every Roman, every bystander is a reflection of ourselves, our fears, our failures, our inability to act when confronted with injustice. It's uncomfortable, it's gut-wrenching, and it's undeniably powerful. The season does not shy away from showing us the multifaceted cruelty of human nature, the mockery, the laughter at suffering, the political maneuvering, and the unflinching apathy of those who could intervene but choose convenience over morality. And yet, amid all of this, the narrative reminds us that silence, dignity, and faith carry a power far beyond what we can comprehend, creating tension that is both unbearable and hypnotically compelling. Every step closer to the crucifixion intensifies the suspense, each flash of pain or defiance sending a shiver down the spine, because we know the end is inevitable, but we are powerless to alter it. And it's not just the physical torment, the psychological torment inflicted by betrayal, mockery, and injustice adds layers of tension that make the audience's heart pound with every second. When Pilate finally relents, offering Jesus to the crowd's demands despite knowing his innocence, it is a moment that combines helplessness, frustration, and awe in a way that makes viewers question morality, justice, and human nature itself. The flogging, the crowning of thorns, the jeers, the humiliation, all meticulously crafted, force us to feel the injustice in our very bones, while the calm, measured endurance of Jesus amplifies the tension to near unbearable levels. Can we even process the paradox of witnessing suffering while simultaneously witnessing divine composure? And then, as if to test our emotional endurance further, the final stages of the episode lead us to the crucifixion site, where anticipation reaches a fever pitch.